Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having this opportunity to speak to such an excellent audience. I have then I'll be tiptoeing when, as long as we are having some trouble with the presentation, and just starting by saying that globally, adventure tourism has, over the past years, developed from being niche to mainstream. A recent study by George Washington University measured the adventure tourism market for the first time and found it's the fastest growing type of tourism in the industry today, representing an estimated total market value of $263 billion in 2014. That adventure tourism has become mainstream is also reflected in the megatrends for global tourism in general. Tourists are like never before looking for discovering untouched places, and they're searching for unique and authentic experiences, relaxing offline, and the opportunity to learn something new. And they expect companies that listens to the feedback, because choices are more and more made based on word of mouth, which basically today means social media such as Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And this gives a relevant explanation for the reason or the fact that Greenland was selected by Lonely Planet for its top 10 Best in Travel 2016 list, and also selected by National Geographic Travelers Top 20 Best Trips in 16. Then something should happen here. Well, this line chart behind me shows the development in all flight passengers to Greenland by month in selected years from 2005 until today. The thin orange line you see is representing the year 2000 and was until last year the best year in terms of most flight passengers to Greenland. Then 2008 was followed by 5 years of decline until 2014, where the decline was replaced of a small growth of land-based tourism. Land-based meaning guests coming in by airplanes. And 2015 became the historical best year. That's the blue line you see on the chart. And the growth continued. If you see the green line, we have the last figures from the 3 months in 2016. But having a total number of flight passengers isn't really revealing the size of tourism in Greenland. You need to distinguish between ourselves traveling and our guests. This is why Greenland, from second half 14, began to register flight passengers based on the country of residence in all airports with international departures and arrivals. So 15 marked the first year when it has been possible to calculate exactly how many tourists we have visited Greenland in a full calendar year. So if you look at the bar charts, you'll see a total of 67,876 tourists in Greenland in 15. This total is divided into approximately 45,000, or exactly 45,139 land-based tourists. That's the yellow part of the bar, and 22,390 cruise guests, of which 66,148 traveled out of Greenland by airplane. That's the green part. As the registration based on country of residence began in June 14, it's possible also for the first time to give an accurate picture of the growth in tourism by comparing numbers from second half 15 with second half 14. And this document a total growth of 23.8% of tourists by airplane or land-based tourists, and 11% growth in cruise guests. If we solely look on tourists with a country of resident outside Scandinavia, the growth was 49.4%. That's significant. At the same period, we had an 8.8% decrease in our self-traveling, meaning people who resided in Greenland. In second half 15, every second flight passenger was a resident of a different country than Greenland and Denmark. And in the same period in 15, this was only every third. So the conclusion here is that the growth in total flight passengers into Greenland is due to an international growth of tourism, or growth of international tourism. The main growth markets are today North America and Europe. In Europe, especially Germany, France, and UK. We also clearly see a growth in the Chinese market, but the number compared to the other markets are still relatively low. The picture is further underlined if you look at the development on the traffic in Greenland.com. In 2011, Greenland.com is the National Tourist Board's website. In 2011, we had 425,000 visitors on the site, of which 25% came from Denmark. In 15, the total number of visits to the website was 1.08 million visitors, of which 26% was from the US. In 2011, the American share was just 10%. So today we have visitors from Denmark is represented on the website by 13%, 10% from Germany, and UK is represented by 8.6%. This indicates also where are the markets, because these are potential tourists on the website. So combined with additional data, it's possible to draw a clear picture of Greenland's primary markets. And therefore, if we want to increase our number in tourists fastest, a systematic, consistent, and coordinated effort in these markets are recommended. Based on the growth I just presented to you that we're seeing in the tourism, and as a starting point for developing a strategy, we have created 5 projections of when the volume of land-based tourism could double, from a very optimistic to a very conservative. Our strategy, naturally, is based on the most conservative scenario of an average growth of just 5%. You heard about the growth percentages before. So 5% is pretty solid to figure that. If we say we have 5% growth from now on every year, we will have 90,000 tourists in Greenland in 29, which is 13 years from now. 90,000, that's a double of land-based. But there could have naturally also be other scenarios. If the growth is 6%, we'll have 90,000 in 27, and if the growth is 8, then we see 90,000 in 24, which means 8 years from now. So a really relevant strategic question is, how do we support and secure the growth of a sustainable tourism in Greenland, and are we ready for this? Seem to have a little technical, try this. Yeah. And once again, yeah. A precondition, this has been mentioned several times during this session this morning, but a precondition for growth is increased accessibility. This could be in a short-term strategy for utilizing the existing capacity better, which is happening, and a long-term strategy which include a Newport airport structure, and this is passed in the Greenlandic government. So we both have a short-term and a long-term strategy for increasing accessibility. We're going to have the airports in Ilulissat and Nuuk, a North Atlantic airport in Raudok, and moving the airport from Kulusuk in East Greenland to the main city, to Silak. This will become a game changer for tourism in Greenland with a number of secondary effects. There will be new opportunities, but also challenges of which both must be addressed. Just to give an example here, the transatlantic route will demand new aircrafts, smaller than the current Airbus, which means a higher frequency of flights, which again means demand for longer opening hours at the airport. It also means that with new planes, there will be new routes that will be financially much more interesting than they are today. And then there's the question of Garnslussuaq. Will it be there in 20 years? Is it relevant in 20 years? That's the question. If it isn't there, then the destination Arctic Circle, who has a lot of strong tourist product, will have no direct connection internationally. So the destinations also need to consider this new scenario and create alliances with other destinations. I will do it shortly. Finally, another precondition for growth, for continued growth, is a clear and continuous marketing of the 5 destinations based on their specific characteristics and strength. Marketing is communication of reason to go, and if you want to penetrate your target audience, it's necessary to stand out from the competition. This requires strong regional brands based on regional culture and core experiences. In this way, you will also avoid the non-constructive competition on what the true Greenland is. And it will lead, and what that leads to a lack of interest for coordination and cooperation. But by having 5 very different destinations which together represent the true Greenland, we create a more complete picture of our country that combined appeals to a much larger audience of different tourism segments. Yeah. Thank you.